Hey, this is Dan from Ramblin' Ambition, and we're working on the van again today. If you're new to the channel, I am rebuilding our 170 extended all-wheel drive sprinter van. This is van number 2, so we've taken some lessons learned from the other van and applying it to this one. The last couple episodes, I've kind of hinted at what we're going to talk about today, which is how to add Starlink to your van. So if this is something you're interested in, please stick around for the video. So one of the challenges in van life is connectivity. A lot of folks want to be able to either work on the road or just stay connected to family and friends, and sometimes that is tough when you're in remote spaces. So one of the options that you can do is put on a cell phone booster, which we have a WeBoost OTR. That does help, but you have to have cell signal, and it certainly generally doesn't give you enough to look at anything other than text messages. So we thought about Starlink. So Starlink provides high-speed internet access just about anywhere in the US and in some areas off the coast of the US. Since both Emily and I want to be able to kind of work remotely when the time comes, we do want to have some options, and so we figured out that we would try Starlink and see what it would take to get everything installed in the van, since we're still in that build phase. So with that being said, we ordered our Starlink. So these are some of the components that came. We decided to go with the Generation 3 large dish. A lot of folks nowadays are using the Starlink Mini. The challenge with the Mini is sometimes it doesn't have the capacity that the Gen 3 does. And so we went ahead and picked the bigger dish simply because it's got a better capacity. It actually has a snow melt feature. Since we're up in Colorado and we like to ski, that can be positive. And we have plenty of battery power to power the Gen 3 Starlink without any issue at all. And so that's why we chose it. So some of the components that come in that kit is, of course, you get the Gen 3 dish, you get the power supply, which is an AC driven power supply, you get the router, and then you have the cable. So I have already routed the cable up through the roof, because that's where the Starlink is going to be mounted, and we did order a few extra things. So in a van, one of the things that you want to try and do is power that Starlink off of your battery bank system instead of running it through the inverter, because if you have the inverter on, it's drawing power to convert energy from 12 or 24 volts or 48 volts, depending on what you've got, into 120 volts. And so a lot of folks have talked about, there are plenty of videos on converting your Starlink to 12 volts or 24 volts. What we chose to do is actually order the DC to DC converter that Starlink makes. So they make a 12 volt DC to DC converter that has the same form factor as their AC to DC converter, but it's actually made by them. It's more expensive, but to me, I think buying a product that's designed for the system that we have is more advantageous. And so the fittings are all the same. The form factor, like I said, of the converter is the same. And all you have to do is tie in the cable that they give you into your 12 volt or 24 volt system. We are running 24 volts. And so that's the system that we tied into. The cable comes with two ends like this. So one plugs actually into the DC to DC converter. And then this gives you an option to plug it into like a DC power supply. A lot of the Blue Yeti and the Anchor and a bunch of different brands all have a plug-in that this can go into. Since ours is going to be permanently mounted, it goes into one of our fuse blocks, so we did cut that off. And they were nice enough to give us a red and a black wire. A lot of times in these cables, you get two black wires and you got to figure out which one is positive and which one is negative. They at least color coded it. So that was nice. We're going to keep this AC to DC power supply just in case we ever want to hook it up on the ground. So this will always be available for us if we need to. It also gives us the capability that if for some reason we have a challenge with our battery system, that we can always run an extension cord out and power it directly. Say if we were to go to a campground or something, we can plug that into our exterior AC outlet and just feed it perfectly from the grid that's in the campground. So we'll have that around stuffed in a compartment in the van, but in the short term, or I guess in the long term, we're going to use our system. Now, one of the challenges that we had was how do we mount everything? And so I was looking on Amazon because I basically want to put the Starlink, the router, and the power supply into one of our upper cabinets. So we found this really cool mount that we already have mounted to the wall, but it is made out of aluminum. The power supply goes into this block. There are some friction pads to keep it from moving, and then the router sits right here. All we did was take some 1/4 inch by 3 inch aluminum flat bar to give a nice mounting surface, and we just bolted it to that. I'll leave a link in the description to the bracket that I found. There are tons of these brackets on Amazon, but this is the one that I felt made our use case the best because it's nice and it's compact. And it's light. A lot of them are made out of plastic, and that's fine. I wanted something that was made out of aluminum. So I'll kind of show you how all of that goes together. So the DC power supply, you get the plug-in that comes from your DC system, and basically this fits perfectly and slides right in place. So this plug plugs into the back of the router. So if you haven't looked at these routers, there are 2 plugs. One is the power supply, and then this is the satellite cable. So since our cable, like I said, is already run through the roof, we'll make those 2 connections, and then we'll slide the unit right in the back. So power supply, and it just pushes in, and it's weather sealed. And then the cable from the Starlink, from the dish, just feeds in again. Same deal, just pushes all the way in. And then we just slide this up here, and there's a little bracket that gives some ears for the wire, and it just has like a friction fit. And it fits just like that. So Starlink says that when you're positioning the router is to position it as close to the devices that'll be using it as possible. And we chose this location because it's basically in the center of the van. When we're trying to activate the internet or use the internet, we're going to be in this space. So we put it right here because it was the best spot for it. So this plug only goes in one way. So there's a square end and kind of a round end. And basically you just push it in. So the next thing that we had to figure out is how do we want to mount the dish? So people do things in a couple different ways. You can leave it off and just set it up beside your van once you've parked. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to mess with going out and putting it out every single time. There are a couple different mounting strategies. If you want to permanently mount it on the roof, there are pole mounts, there are flat mounts. And then Starlink actually sells its own mount. And so this mount we also bought from Starlink. It's made of aluminum. It keeps the dish at the angle that it's supposed to be. And it comes with a mounting brace that you can use to go on to crossbars. So if you were to mount it on a crossbar on your roof, then that's how you can utilize this bracket system to do that. And we're going to do something just a little bit different. Before I show you how we're going to mount it to the roof, we'll kind of talk about how does this mount actually connect to the Starlink dish itself. So the Starlink dish comes with its own mount and kickstand. And this is designed to keep this at the proper angle. So you can see where the kickstand is. And basically this just slides right out. Just like that. So the mount just slides out. And then this mount, and you can see the only connection on the Starlink dish is the connection from the cord that we plugged into the router. And then this, set at a wedge, basically goes in like this and clicks in. And then the mount sits this way. And so this just slides right in place. You heard it click, and then you tighten up these. There are two small screws right here that you tighten up to fix this brace so it doesn't come off. And that's it. And so there's a space for the cord to go through so that you can plug it in and have it plugged in. You can make this connection before you put this in place, and then it just slides right in. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to mount this first to a plate that I'm getting ready to show you, and we're going to use this bracket just because it's good at what it does, which is lock things in place. So we have the Strata roof rack from White Top Industries, and they make some roof panels that are perfect for mounting things to. In this case, we did some rearrangement up top to make way for a 36-inch panel. That panel is going to mount to the crossbar system that's part of the roof rack, and then we're going to mount the Starlink bracket directly to that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this bracket is designed to use a bunch of different connection hardware to put down whatever it is that you want. In our case, what we're going to do is we're going to mount this, and fortunately all of the holes line up. So there's holes there and holes there, and then we're going to utilize the bracket system underneath to bolt it down to from the bottom. So this has a low profile set. And a higher profile set depending on what kind of crossbar you have. And so we're going to do this on the low profile set, and then this will come up underneath the panel and mount to that bracket, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is basically how it's going to be set on the van. So it's going to be tilted toward the front of the van, and it's going to hang just slightly over the front when we slide everything together, because it won't mount flat. If you pull it all the way back, it's like just barely there. So our goal is to try and keep it as aerodynamic as possible, and the bracket's designed to hold it during wind, so we're going to have it mounted so that it best matches that. So we're going to take a look at both of the way they fit, either this way or perhaps maybe a little bit like that, and kind of see what the best. But let me show you how the bracket's actually going to mount to that plate. So the folks at Starlink were really good. They gave you all of the tools that you need. And for this mount, you use 4 of these hex head screws. And basically it sits down like that. And then you just screw those in place, and we're going to tighten them down. And then remember the 2 screws I told you about that lock this plate to the dish? They're right here. And they even include their own Allen key wrench for that purpose. So we'll get that tightened down and then get the Starlink dish connected to see how the fit goes, and we'll see if we like it. Okay, so depending on your roof rack system, you may have a different mounting opportunity. One of the reasons why I picked the Strata roof rack is because it comes with deck plates. Well, you have to order them separately, but they have deck plate opportunities, and most systems do, but I really just like this setup from White Top Industries. So I think this is the mount selection that we're going to pick and keep. And we got a little friend that's flying around, if you can see him, and we'll go ahead and test fit to make sure the dish will click onto it with it being mounted, which I think it will, because there should be enough clearance. And we did decide to move it back a little so that there is some wind deference. Instead of having it hang over the front like this, we moved it back, and I think the front of the dish is going to sit about right there. So basically we'll just take the dish and just slide it up until it clicks. And there it goes. So this is the setup. So it's got its angle. It noses down to here. My only concern is that might create a little bit of a whistle, but we'll see. We can always move it later if we want to. And then that gives us quick access to the mounting screws to be able to pull it up. But I'm pretty happy. This is going to cheat over toward where the max air fan is right here. So there should be enough room based on where this is being put. But we'll go ahead and finish it up. So we'll take those 4 bolts back out, Loctite them down, and get everything ready. So the cord is already up on the top, and so we'll go ahead and get the bracket mounted, get it mounted to the roof rack. We'll show you that, and then we'll slide the dish into its final home. Okay, we got everything locked down. Now, just Loctite comes in a bunch of different forms, which is red, you never want to take it off. Blue, you want it secure, but you don't want it to come off. And it comes in 2 forms. It comes in either liquid, or what I prefer is a paste stick. This stuff is infinitely easier to work with than the liquid. It's not messy at all. It does the same job, and I really like it. So something to think about if you're Loctiting your bolts onto anything. I recommend the paste. So just to show you, here it is all locked down, and then this is what it looks like on the bottom. So we're basically just using the face of this bracket to make all of the secure connection. And it is rock solid. So we're gonna go ahead and get it up on top of the van. All right, we're up on the van. You can see how the plate mounts to the crossbars. So we have our digital cable that comes up. We're gonna run that straight through the bracket, plug it into the dish, and then slide everything into place. That's going to go with the tab going down. And then we'll just pull this cord. Push it till it clicks. There we go. And that's it. Pretty sleek, I think. So we'll go ahead and we'll screw those 2 detent screws in the back of the bracket to make sure that the Starlink doesn't pop off. And we're basically done. All right, so that was the installation of our Starlink. Pretty simple, pretty efficient. Like I said, we bought the Starlink version of the DC to DC converter, which allows us to run 24 volt system to power the router and the dish. And like I said, I prefer to use the Starlink made stuff. You certainly can make it on your own, probably a lot cheaper. I think that unit was $110, but well worth it to have the right equipment for the right stuff. Like I said, we chose the 3rd gen dish, and then we used their Starlink's roof rack mount. And then we just adapted it to a plate that fits in our roof rack, and I think it really turned out well. So we powered it up, we have internet, everything works. We'll do some speed tests once we take the van out on our next trip to kind of show you what kind of internet coverage we actually get. So like I said, we're only paying, so there's a couple different plans. You can get the $50 plan, which is what we're using. You can upgrade it even more. And if you're a super user of the Starlink, there is a Starlink Pro, which is the same dish of the Gen 3, but it's got a higher powered setup for you. So if your business is being a digital nomad, if you will, then perhaps that's a better option for you. But for us, where we're just going to be using it a little bit at a time, the $50 plan per month is really all we're going to need. If we find out that we need more, we can always upgrade anytime. And that's one of the benefits of the Starlink is you can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can upgrade, you can downgrade. It's really nice. And it was super easy to set up. You just download their app, and it kind of walks you through the rest of it. So again, hope you guys got something from the video. If you stuck around this far, give yourself a giant thumbs up. Highly recommend the Starlink as a great addition to your internet needs, whether that's work, whether that's play, whether that's watching movies, or just connecting with your family, or uploading video content if you're making that on the road. So again, Dan from Ramblin' Mission, thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe. The next video, I think we're actually going to be mounting our twin ARB air compressor. So we had a couple different ideas on what to do, but we settled on one. So we'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.